Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make Your Life Easy Visual Event and Travel Planning. We thought we'd do this event, especially this week, because I know a lot of you are wrapping up all kinds of last-minute holiday and work activities. For those of you in the U.S. celebrating the American Thanksgiving holiday, and of course, November, year-end, you have all kinds of deadlines. So the brain is just a fabulous tool for non-linear as well as structured project management. So in terms of looking at that information, we're going to go ahead and get started. So this particular brain is the My Brain example, and I wanted to go into this brain because it does have project management examples. So for those of you that are new to the brain, when you create a new brain, you actually have different templates you can start with. And there's a template called the One Brain for It All. You can get to it from that way. You can also come in here and go to File and import that template brain. So I've got that option. You've got that option as well. And you can use the brain for either business projects or personal events as well. So we're going to do a combination. So in terms of using the brain for my personal events, what I love is having a travel and vacation section. Matt is going to debut his travel brain. He has a brain dedicated to travel. Now, a lot of you sort of asked, do I have one brain or many brains for different topics? And that is entirely up to you. Your brain can have as many pieces of documents and files, thoughts and connections as you want. There's unlimited scalability of technology, but that being said, sometimes people just like to have a separate brain. So my example has an integrated travel and vacation section within a larger brain. Matt's going to show you a brain that is a little bit different, where it's a topic-specific brain. So you get to see a couple different examples of how you can structure an event planning and travel brain. So for those of you that are new to the brain, pieces of information in the brain are what we call thoughts. And a thought can represent any type of digital information. So I've just clicked on my diving thought here. I might be planning a diving event with my dive group. So when I click on a thought, I get all access to all relevant information that I might have connected. And this can be Word documents. You can see here I have an equipment checklist, and I can just launch that spreadsheet and look at that information. Or I have links to different websites. So if you have something linked, you can get your browser icon or the favicon of that site. So I've got a link to Patty News, which is the dive organization. You can tell the holidays are coming up because I'm going to start in our travel and diving section. No, I'm not going diving for Thanksgiving. I wish I was, but we can always I can simulate that I was. I have in previous holidays. So anyway, links to relevant organizations, and it all comes together nicely. The other thing that's great for event and vacation planning is the notes area. Each thought in your brain has a notes section. So I can go ahead and start typing that I have to remember to bring my dive cap and snorkel mask. Okay, and then as far as that, we've got spell check, and then I have to get larger fins for turbulent, I'll just say rough water. So here, I can go ahead and take notes on this particular thought. So I have this thought on my equipment checklist, and I've got notes. And if I want to go ahead and plan a new trip, I can go and do that. So let me go ahead and say that I'm thinking about researching diving in the, let's say, the U.S. Virgin Islands. So I'm going to create a thought in my brain on the U.S. Virgin Islands. And the nice thing about when you're planning an event, the brain has a built-in search web feature, so I can actually just go ahead and activate that thought. I can either search on Twitter, which is kind of interesting, or do my web search. In this case, I want to just do a web search to start building that collection of knowledge on my brain. And so I can start by linking just really basic sites. I like the Lonely Planet is great for travel. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this site. And now any thought that or any web page that I want, I simply drag and drop this. Now if I drop it on the thought, it's going to link to that thought. If I drop it below, it'll make a nice link below. So now I've got that Lonely Planet resource. Of course, I can continue. There's a U.S. news travel site that I'm going to add. And I just want to show you how easy it is to start building a knowledge base. Now, of course, I'm doing it on something really fun and exciting like the U.S. Virgin Islands. You can do it on your next big product release or that sort of thing as well. The other thing that's really great is you can also copy and paste information into the notes section. So if I want to go ahead and grab this nice paragraph on why go to the U.S. Virgin Islands, I can come here and copy this. And let me just go ahead and paste this into my notes section here. So I've got a nice note here as well on this thought, and I can actually go ahead and reformat things too if I want to go ahead and change the formatting and bold things. And so when I'm actually on a particular thought here, and if I just want to mouse over my U.S. Virgin Islands thought, I've got that link. Now, of course, the brain comes with a wonderful 1,500 icon library, so you can actually go in and choose a category. So if I want to go to, let's see, maybe science and nature, and maybe put a nice little flower or something exotic on this thought, I can go ahead and do that. And I can also attach images to thoughts, which is really nice. So the brain features zoomable icons. So for instance, if I go into my Cozumel vacation section, I've got some nice pictures and links attached. And you can also grab maps from the internet, and you can see I just mouse over my Caribbean thought, and I've got that map. Now this is great logistically for business travel as well. Yes, I'm in my vacation area, but I have the same thing in my own personal brain. New York, I've got maps of Tribeca, of the main area, all kinds of things, and links to restaurant guides. So it becomes a really powerful resource. And the great thing about adding this is I tend to go back to places that I visited. So once I've created a particular area in my brain, I have it forever. I have a great Asian fusion section on restaurants in my brain. And of course, here locally as well in Los Angeles, we're right in Culver City on Washington Boulevard. There's some great new restaurants popping up in Mar Vista in the Culver City area. So I've mapped all those out. So, I'm hungry in the evening, friends are in town, I just launch that section of my brain. I don't even have to think too hard, and I can just kind of cruise around. And a lot of people ask, why do this? Why don't you just do a Google search, Shelley, on Cozumel or Virgin Islands, or for that matter, just use Yelp? What's different about, what does the brain give you that I can't get by just a quick Google search? And the answer to that is your perspective and context. Yes, absolutely. I can go to Google and type in a search and find, whatever restaurant I'm looking for. But what's more relevant to me is, what is the restaurant I've been to that I like? I can also take notes on who's the manager I talk to that gives me that great table or discount on my takeout food. All that kind of stuff. Like in hotels, if I ever talk to someone, I can do that. And you might have a specific brand you like. So here I've got a link in this thought to Hotels by Ian Schrager, like the look of some of those hotels, and I kind of forgot about them actually. That's another thing. So I can remember, oh, okay, well, this is really cool. On my way to the Virgin Islands, I have a connection in Miami, so hey, I might go ahead and stay at the Shore Club. Why not treat myself? So I'm going to go ahead and link the Shore Club to my U.S. Virgin Islands trip that I have under diving. And it's also very interesting because it's showing me that I have a couple other things on U.S. Virgin Islands. So if you have other content in the brain, you will this will help you remember. So over time, the brain becomes your working digital memory, your conceptual space to ensure you are making the most of your time and these events that you're doing. You know, your life is important, so you want to make the most of everything. So one of the great things about the brain is the ability to have one particular piece of information, in this case the Shore Club Hotel, located under multiple thoughts. This is absolutely more important too when you're sharing a brain or you're dealing with more complex business projects. But I want to know that I want to see this particular hotel when I'm looking at a certain brand of hotels, but I also want to see it in relation to my trip, because this makes sense to me to stay here en route to Virgin Islands. So I want to go ahead and add that there. Now I also have a couple areas in my brain. You can see I've got a thought here on U.S. Virgin Islands. I can continue to map things out. The other thing that I can do is add documents. So I can drag and drop documents, or I can create a new document. So I'm just going to go ahead and use what I call the comma trick to add the parent name, and I'm going to say trip overview. And so this is sort of my itinerary for the trip. So I'm going to create that thought. And now you'll see when I click on it what I've done. I usually have a trip overview for every thought, but I don't want redundant names. So I've just put the comma in front of that thought when I've created that thought. And what that does is it adds the parent name. So it's actually the full thought is U.S. Virgin Islands trip overview. So I've got that thought set up now. But when I actually look at it from this perspective, it's what we call context-sensitive naming. So just a little tip for you on that, using the comma. You know, I can do that for a number of other areas. So in this case, I want to create a trip overview. So I'm going to right-click on this thought and simply add an attachment. And in this case, I'm going to add a Word document. I'm going to go ahead and launch Word, and I'm going to start talking about, you know, maybe my itinerary, all kinds of things. And I can go ahead and save this in my brain. So I can go ahead and save, and that just gets saved right into my brain. So now I've got a Word document. And if I have additional information that I'm interested in adding, I might be traveling with a friend who actually has diabetes. So I'm going to be doing some cooking in our resort. So I've got a document on meal planning. So I'm simply going to drag this document in and drop this. And what this does is it creates a shortcut to where this file is. I can go ahead and leave this as a shortcut, or I can move this file into my brain or copy it. So in this case, I want to move this file into my brain, and I want to change the name. I'm just going to call it meal planning, because it's actually great meal planning for everyone. So I've got this. Now I've started this thought thinking about diving, but I can go ahead, and it really makes sense to have this as a sort of section under travel and vacation, and I have a Caribbean area. So what I want to do now is I want to link U.S. Virgin Islands here. So now U.S. Virgin Islands is a destination under diving, but it's also in my Caribbean section, and I actually want to move my Cozumel vacation under this as well. So you can see how things can change and how I'm building this particular area in the brain. And if I want to go ahead and add some more information. Oopsie, let me just go ahead and do that. So there's a couple interesting dive sites that I want to research if I'm up for the challenge. So one of them is the RS Roan site. And so I'm just going to go ahead and look at these different sites. And I'm going to just adjust this. Okay, and here is a link to my top 10 dive sites. So let me just go ahead and simply drag this and drop this. into my brain. And from here, I can go ahead and get the information that I'm interested in. And here's a nice pre-dive checklist that I really like. So I'm actually going to copy this. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new thought. Pre-dive check. So I like this pre-dive check idea. So much so that I'm actually taking this information. And I'm going to go back here. And again, just copy that and paste this into notes. So now I've got my own pre-dive check right here. Now we can also use thought types as well. So if this pre-dive checklist becomes very important, I can actually utilize my thought type here to make this stand out. So in this case, my pre-dive thought list or checklist is very important. So I can create a new thought called critical, or I can tag this as, or rather type it as a thought type. And I also have thought types for locations. So if I want to tag this or type it, as a location, we do have thought tags as well, and I'll cover that as well. As a cool location, I can come in here and adjust that as location as well. So I see these are different locations in my brain, and I have the pre-dive checklist, which is a hot topic. Now, the thing that's nice about that is I can go ahead and look at my thought types, and if I want to go ahead and see all my hot topic thoughts, I can look at that. And of course, I've got stuff in my finance area and work. Then I've also got this for my personal section as well. And likewise, I can continue that. Now, tags are also interesting also. So what I can do for tags is, you can see here, I can add additional metadata to a particular thought, which is great for a project. So just going over to a business area here, I had a web design meeting. So in this case, you can see how we're planning for this big event of the web design, and I've got it under IT because IT is involved, marketing's involved. It's in my meeting management section. This is a great section that I highly recommend if you are having a brain on business. You can actually create thoughts for all your meeting, even store all your meeting notes in the notes. And in this case, we talked about a wide variety of things. You can see I've got different Word documents, I've got images attached to my thoughts, and I've also got different thought types as action items. So if I'm in a meeting or planning an event and something is specifically my action item, I have this purple colored thought type that I utilize. Now, what is the difference between a thought type and a tag? You can only have one thought type per thought. So in this case, hot topic, my action item. So make that the pervading character of your thought. Tags, I can have multiple tags here. So 2-month time frame, low cost. I can do tagging. Let me go back and actually tag. Let's say I'm doing, let me create a section on U.S. Virgin Islands hotels. So let me just create, and again, using the comma to do context-sensitive naming, because I don't want a whole bunch of thoughts called hotels, but let me just go ahead and I'm going to say, I'm just going to add a few, of course. I'm going to say hotel A, now I'm going to use a list. Hotel B and hotel C. Okay, so I've just created a list of hotels. Obviously, I'd normally use actual names, but let's just do this for simplicity's sake here. And I want to show you, of course, I can drag and drop web pages and so forth, but I can also use tags to weight different things. So if I want to go ahead and look at price on hotels, I can create different criteria. So I've got my own stuff, tags. I've got low cost or medium cost. So if Hotel A is low cost, I'm going to tag it as low cost. Maybe Hotel C is also low cost. And then let's say Hotel B, high investment. Okay, it's relatively expensive. Likewise, You know, we've got the Shore Club, well, depending on your budget. For me, it's a little bit more of a high investment too. So let me go back to the Shore Club and add tag it as high investment. So now I can see in my planning, and let me just go ahead, and this isn't a U.S. Virgin Island hotel, but I'm going to put it under hotels there because I'm going to be staying there en route to Virgin Islands. So, you know, you can kind of do what makes sense for you. So now what my tags enable me to do is just add that little bit of data. I can also create new tags. So if I want to tag hotels that have a modern decor, I'm going to create a thought called modern look. And tags, I've got that tag available. Now, it creates it when you just started on your active thought. I actually don't want it on this thought, so I'm just going to uncheck it. And where I do want to note that is on the Shore Club Hotel. It's got a modern look, so I'm going to create that tag there. And I'm going to go back, and also Hotel A is a low-cost modern look, so I've got two tags there. And then if I want a more tropical look for a hotel, Hotel C has that. So that's a more colonial, I'll call that tropical look. And you can see, so now as I'm choosing, as I've done my hotel research, and let me just shorten this Shore Club name here. You just go into the thought properties and actually just make that a little smaller. You can now kind of see each hotel has its own set of attributes. Now, of course, if I were actually doing hotel research, I would start off by doing a web search or dragging and dropping, you know, what I'm getting from Expedia or, you know, that sort of thing. So if I want to potentially say, wow, this looks great at the Ritz-Carlton in St. Thomas, you know, that might be the high investment Hotel B. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to add an image. So I'm going to right click on this image. Let's go back and grab that. And just have to wait a second for the web connection here. Okay, so here it is. So very nice view, no doubt. I can go ahead and actually copy images and paste them. So let's go paste them in Hotel Day. And I just paste it as a thought icon. And I'll actually have that image, the zoomable image, attached right to that particular thought. So you can see how nice that looks. And let's just go ahead and I'm just going to change this to make this more realistic, the Ritz-Carlton. There we go. So you can see I'm not necessarily staying there at the moment. And of course, so I've got the image. I've already tagged it as a high investment. Let me go ahead and drag that web page under it. And then I've got that link as well. Now, the other thing that's kind of nice is I can go ahead and grab different parts of images with the built-in screen capture tool. So if I just want to get sort of, I want to say the beach view at Ritz. I can go ahead and do this. And let me just go back to that beach view, wherever it was. Here's a nice beach view. And I can simply use the capture tool to go ahead and I just capture thought icon. It gives me these crosshairs. Now, in this case, I actually just want to get this little image below. I want to keep this as a small icon. So I'm just grabbing a very small portion of my page. And you can see I just have that little image there too, and I can continue to do that if I want to go back and go into, let me just go to images here so we can do this a little bit better. So here's an image, and again, I'll get a larger image here, make this bigger so you can see how the capture tool works. Oopsie. Okay, so maybe I just want a portion of that image. Again, what I'm going to do is simply go ahead and right-click on my thought, select the capture thought icon, I get the crosshairs, and I can go ahead and just take the portion of that image. Now this is great for product management too, if you want to do screenshots. So you can see I've got these nice areas here in my brain. So that's a little bit on vacation and event planning. Now in terms of organizing your events and projects, you can have a projects area. So in this particular example, in my brain, just switching over to business, I have a new company training project. I've got it under my project or events area, but I also have it under its relevant domain. This is something we're doing with staff and teams. So I've got all this. Now, what you'll see is the nice thing about your brain is you can move very quickly to different projects and events in your life and business. So just as quickly as I was planning my diving trip, maybe, I get a phone call from someone at the office and I need to talk about that new company project. I've just moved over there very quickly. Now, I can also use the search. So if I get a call back from the Ritz-Carlton manager for a discounted rate or whatever, I can just start typing in the first couple letters, and lo and behold, there it is. And I just moved to that area. And this is interesting, actually, because this Ritz-Carlton thought is a different thought in my brain. It's not the Ritz-Carlton hotel thought. This is Ritz-Carlton as my client. So very interesting. I forgot about that. And what I'm thinking now is I'm going to go ahead and just see if they have, I have a contact here, if they have maybe a coupon or friends and family discount they can use. So now I'm going to go ahead and link my client to this hotels section. Here, and I can go ahead and do that. And so now I've got this, and I can actually go back further. I want to go back into my Ritz-Carlton area and even link that further. Let me just go ahead and do that, and back to the Ritz-Carlton, and I'll actually link this client. Now, so now I know, and I can actually, this I know is a client because it's got the purple tag, but I can actually go ahead and add this as a tag here. Let's call this Ritz client. And so now I've got that attached as well as potentially something that somebody I might tap into for that vacation, not necessarily. But that's the way that works. So it's very easy to, you can see, just build an area. Now, I decided to build this in one section of my brain as sort of my big event for holiday weekend, that sort of thing. This could be a separate brain as well. And I think that'll be a great transition to Matt, who has a separate brain, a complete brain on travel, and also has some great examples on actually planning for a Thanksgiving holidays with turkeys and more traditional things, not necessarily jetting off to the Virgin Islands, which I'm not doing this year anyway. So with that, I think I'll pass presenter over to you, and you can go ahead and show some of your examples as well.
Great, thank you. And yes, this year Thanksgiving is coming to me. My wife and I are hosting Thanksgiving at our house. So in my examples, I'd like to share with you a few of the things, a few of the different ways that we're managing and keeping track of the Thanksgiving holiday and preparing. And I am going to start with my travel brain. So this particular brain, I'll start off by saying you can actually download a copy of this brain. Now, I've extracted all of my personal information out of the version that's available online, but we'll send in our thank you email to everyone that goes out that's joined the call today a link to watch a specific video that's all about this particular brain and in greater detail, and a link to actually download. You can play around with it. You can merge it into your brain for your own travel section if you haven't started building that out yet in your brain. So let me take you on a quick tour first, and then I'll share with you a couple of features and a couple of the different ways that I'm using this particular brain this year for Thanksgiving. So I've got sort of some high-level subcategories. I'm keeping track of specific airlines. When it's time for me to book a trip, whether it's recreational or for business, this is where I go. I come directly into my airlines. It's typically the first location I go to. And sometimes I type in a couple of different airlines, or I just simply launch American Airlines, opens up the website, and I can do just a quick search right from their website to find and book a flight. So I'm keeping track of airlines, obviously, car rental locations. I've got a specific area for my reservations. When I book something, I'll drop it here in the reservations. And this also has reservations for Airbnb, Expedia, Hotwire, different reservations, sort of full service reservation utilities. So I come in here from time to time and book a trip that way as well. If I'm looking for the big package, the car rental, the hotel, the travel, the whole deal. And of course, I've got an area in this brain that I really like. These are my travel tips. So travel tips are just really great websites that I have found over the years. One of my favorites, Seat Guru. I always like to look up and find out where am I going to be sitting on that plane. So it's a website that I go to often. Where do I find this website? I find it in my brain. Anytime I'm going to a website this often, it's always going to be connected to a thought in my brain. So that being said, let me show you some of the most recent bits of content that I've brought into my travel brain. Now, notice that I've got a jump thought over to the left of travel for holidays, things that are happening now, like just sort of hot topics and destinations that I like to go to. Now, I want this happening now thought to stand out a little bit. I quite often go here to rearrange the most recent travel item that I'm focused on, whether it's, again, business or pleasure. So my family is taking a little sort of winter extravaganza up to Door County. I've got that mapped out. And of course, I have a link to Thanksgiving, which also falls under holidays, which was a jump thought from travel. So multiple ways of getting to the same content, regardless of how I happen to be thinking about it. Now, for happening now, like I said, I really want this thought to stand out. I'm going to this thought often as well. And notice I don't have an icon or any type of color associated with this thought. So I'm really quickly going to dress this up just to make it stand out a little bit in my brain. So for the Thought Tool tab down below, the first thing I like to do, you can see Door County. I love going to Door County. So anytime I'm in the area of Wisconsin in my brain, I want this thought to stand out a little bit. So I gave it a little target and colored that red so I can really identify that thought very quickly. I'll do the same for happening now. Every thought, you can modify their color, the graphics. You saw Shelley adding customized graphics from the web. Here, I'm going to simplify that. I'm going to add just a simple color for happening now, just a nice warm light blue, and I'll click on the little icon here that you see next to happening now. I can also right-click on the thought, so different options to get to this feature, and select to add a stock icon, one of our stock icons. So I'm going to select a thought icon from the brain's icon library, and I can shift by categories. This is typically more recreational, so I'll go into the cute area. Happening now, I'm just going to make it this fun guy with the sunglasses. So easy enough. Whatever's happening now is usually keeping me happy, so I've got a nice little icon to identify that thought. A simple little feature within the brain, but it can really stand out whether you're identifying hot projects within your business items or key customers within your sales department that you're mapping out. So here, happening now, we can jump down to Thanksgiving. Now, like I said, this year Thanksgiving is coming to me. So usually I'm booking my family's ticket, my kids, activities for the kids. This year it's all happening here, and I'll share that with you in a different brain. But I did actually plan out, for instance, my mom and dad's travel plans. They're not too tech savvy. They're flying in from Houston. And so, of course, I booked their tickets on United Airlines, and all of the details down below simply go right into that notes section. And the advantage to doing this is, I can really quickly just copy that $14.99, UA $14.99. I'll open up United Airlines, and United Airlines has a little flight status. I can just paste that in. $14.99, that flight is actually tomorrow. I had that information out of my note as well, and I'll do a search. Oh, $14.99. Oh, it's not searching for me. I'm not sure why. Maybe they've got some problems with their website. Let me just confirm that I got it right. UA $14.99. So there's nothing there. Maybe I need to check that out to see if the flight's coming in on a different day. It shouldn't be. So we'll check that with with United Airlines maybe after the call. I'd need to make sure because that is a real valid flight information number. Maybe if I say from Houston to Chicago, that's ORD. Nope, still saying nothing. So I need to check that out. I'm glad I checked that now so I can find out sooner rather than later. So there's their flight reservation information. Again, we can scan that information later. Also on my mom and dad, they're going to be here for quite a while. They actually stay from tomorrow through December 9th. So while they're here, I'm going to be renting them a car to give them a little bit of freedom as well. And of course, obviously, I'd go into my car rental area. They're not so user-friendly on Uber or anything like that. So I'll be renting them their own car. And once again, I can link that information up as soon as I've logged into Hertz, checked out some prices, made a reservation number. I'm going to copy and paste all that information right there onto the Hertz thought, or most likely down below. And I'll just paste that information right there on their thoughts. So I can keep track of everything very, very quickly and easily right from that notes area. Now also, my Uncle Dave is coming in on Amtrak. He's taking a train in. Also, once again, not very tech savvy. And I have right down below his reservation information. I received a PDF for that in an email once it was done. And I can always drag and drop all of that content right into the brain. In fact, I'm going to right click and just move this attached file into the brain. So it no longer resides on my desktop. I might be on another machine or even on a mobile device, and I'll need to check his information, arrival information, just like I checked for my parents, and confirm that everything is running according to or ahead of schedule. So I like to move that content into my brain, and I'll share with you in just a little bit another reason why I like to move all of file attachments internally into the brain. It has to do with syncing and online and mobile access. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. But once again, let me just share one last component with you of this brain, and just to share with you the different ways and the different types of links that you can create within a brain. Also, let's just go back to, it reminds me, with Amtrak. I just started creating this train area within my brain. I don't travel by train too often, but I'm finding more and more. Obviously, if I'm in London, I'm going to take the underground. This Metro is obviously how I'm going to travel whenever I'm visiting Wisconsin, has its Metro line. So I'm trying to take the train more and more, public transit wherever I go. And in Los Angeles, I was recently on a business trip, and we took the Metro. So I've got a link to Metro. I'm going to bring that right into my brain, just simply drag and drop from my web browser. So I'm not just simply going to leave this by itself underneath the train thought. I'm also going to connect the Metro to California. So anytime I'm traveling in California, I can see all the different travel options and resources that I have. Notice that I've got jump thoughts out to SFO and LAX. So if I'm traveling by air, obviously I'm going to be able to look up the, maybe for LAX, I want to launch this and find a great restaurant if I got a 3 or 4 hour layover, or what time I should make it to my flight, or even where my flight is leaving from. All this helpful information always available at my fingertips, and not only just the standard big airports, the railways, but also sites to see. So Yosemite, Napa Valley, those all fall under, Napa falls under culture, which is a type of destination, one of my categories for destination, which links all the way back to travel. So I'm collecting in my travel brain more than just here's my flight time and departure. and flight information and reservation number, more information about the places that I'm going, the resources that are available to me while I'm there, and to have all of that with me wherever I go at my fingertips in the brain is a really, really valuable resource. So once again, you can download a copy of this brain without, if you may have noticed, sometimes when I clicked around to some of my airline thoughts, I've got my frequent flyer number or my reservation numbers for car rentals, etc. All of that information has been stripped out and is available in the sample brain that we'll send you a link for. But now I really, really want to have some fun and jump into my personal brain where I keep track of my own personal hobbies and interests. And one of my interests is food. You can see I've got quite a substantial food sort of network of thoughts here, whether I'm doing my own personal canning, I make some of my own beverages, curing meats, etc., grilling, even food trucks, a passion of mine. But Thanksgiving falls under food too. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy the holiday so much, being with family, appreciating everything I have, and really sitting down and giving thanks over a really hearty meal. I really, really enjoy it. So I've got a whole Thanksgiving area in my brain mapped out, and the most important area is quite simply my Thanksgiving recipes. Now I've got recipes in different areas of my brain. These specifically are some of my traditional Thanksgiving recipes, and each individual thought, well, I'll say almost each individual thought. Most of the thoughts have the recipes right down here in the notes section. So if I have my laptop with me in the kitchen, anytime you have the brain open, you can double click on a tool tab and go full size with that tool tab. So if you need to see full size Plex, just the map of relationships within your brain, I can double click on notes to minimize. And for the structure of the thoughts up above, there's a button over on the right. I can click and go full size with the brain. Click again, that's just a toggle switch, and bring those tool tabs back up. Or double click on notes, and there we go. I've got my laptop sitting in the corner, and I've got access to this specific recipe, or all of these. I've got a couple on this one, different varieties of the same recipe, all there on the notes section. Double click to go right back into the standard view of the brain. I also keep here in my Thanksgiving brain. Now I modify this every year. So last year it was the 2015, 2014. It changes depending on where I'm going for Thanksgiving, who's going to be hosting this year. This year it's myself. So I've got my 2016 checklist right in the notes. This is a very important component of my brain. And I've been popping in and out of here over the past week. I've already purchased the turkey, so I checked that off the list. Pie crust, I've already got those completed. I know those off the top of my head. It's done. Apple pie ingredients. Now, I don't make this apple pie that I make too often, so I need to extend this a little bit and add some other items once I've done the research. Now, of course, my apple pie recipe is here in my brain. I'll just do a quick search for it. There it is, apple pie. And so I can scroll through here. I think I have everything, but it does call for the juice of 2 lemons. So let me just jump back to Thanksgiving. And I just want to make a subcategory under here. I'll add another checkbox, 2 lemons. So I'll be going to the grocery store this evening. And now, once again, I'll refer to my checklist before I go and probably while I'm there and make sure I get those components. And actually, there's a few more ingredients on that list. So I'll be flushing that out just a little bit more as well. And of course, when something is complete, let's say I've already raked the leaves, I haven't yet, but I'll check that off the list. And just to let you know, really quickly, if you're using this for business or something is time sensitive, maybe you need to marinate your turkey and you want to remember, gosh, did I put it in the marinade at 3 a.m. or at 5 a.m. before it went on the grill or whatever the case may be. You can timestamp these items as well. So the brain has a nice little built-in timestamp, so you can always really quickly timestamp a particular item if you need to refer back to when that specific task took place or when you had that idea or added it to the list. So now obviously I don't have my leaves done yet, so I'm going to uncheck that now. And just a couple other components then that I want to share with you here in my recipes area. First off, I said that most of my thoughts have the recipe actually pasted into the notes down below. I know that I've got one. Here's my pumpkin pie recipe. And notice that I just have a little bit of notes. Be sure to follow the pie recipe, not the deep dish. That's a mistake that I've made because in the past, here you can see I've got a link to my little cheaty ingredient that I use for my apple pies. This makes an amazing apple pie. If you want a little tip on Thanksgiving, pumpkin pie, use the pecan pumpkin butter from Williams-Sonoma. I absolutely love it. So I always make sure I've got that in stock. I do this year. I've got a link to the website in case I need to buy more, have it shipped, pick it up at the store, whatever the case may be. But on the recipe cover, which comes actually on the product itself, which is why I don't have it here in my brain because it's on the can whenever I use the can. There's two recipes, one for deep dish and one for pie. And I can't tell you how many times in the past I started following the deep dish recipe, had to change everything at the last minute. So I've got just a little note, a reminder, and you can see I did timestamp this. Back in 2013, I made that mistake again, said I'm never doing this again. I'm going to remind myself in my brain. So I add just a little note there about following the right ingredients for that particular dish. And then finally, Thanksgiving is more than just being about food. Notice I've got a help section, an area for really great recipes. I like to cook my turkey on the grill. So I've got tips on cooking turkeys on the grill along with links to YouTube videos. And I'll watch these probably the morning of while I'm sitting around before we're firing up the grill, just to remind myself, oh yeah, I need to be able to baste quickly or have a little squirt bottle with water if there's a flare-up, whatever the case may be. So a lot of additional helpful information that I keep track of. But also this year, my whole family is doing the local turkey trot. So I've got a link of directions, where to go, what time to be there, when to sign up. It's just a nice little 5K run walk that happens in our neighborhood, and I've got that linked up directly to my Thanksgiving thought as well. And the reason why I put all of this information into the brain, I talked earlier about moving files into the brain, putting all of my notes in the brain. The most important reason for doing all of that is, number one, not only can I sync that to the brain cloud, so I'll go ahead and sync my brain with any recent changes that I've made. That'll be synced up to the cloud, so I'll have web access to the brain by logging into www.webbrain.com. But also, I can log in from my mobile device. So let me bring up my camera here and let me make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. So here is my iPhone, and I'm just going to launch the Brain application. So I'm doing this behind and backwards, and there's my Laura Bloom Brain. So everything that you saw happening in my brain is here on my mobile device and accessible. So I'm just going to do a quick, I'm already on the Thanksgiving thought. I was obviously there recently. So let's say I look up a recipe. I click on recipes, and I'll just click on one. I'm not sure which one from behind here I'm clicking on, but they all have notes. So there's the note. The note pops up. And again, I can take this with me. I'm getting quite a bit of glare, but there you go. I can take this with me wherever I am, whether I'm hopping in and out of the kitchen, running outside to the grill. I have all of my recipes, all my information. Tonight at the grocery store, did I get everything? I'm going to pull out my iPhone, jump right into my brain, and just really quickly go through all the different ingredients, my checklist, and make sure that I've got everything ready to go. So that mobile access to the brain that I'm creating by syncing my brain to the cloud is really just another key ingredient to making sure that everything runs smoothly for me here this Thanksgiving season. And Shelley, with that, I think I will pass it back over to you to see if we had any additional questions. And I did have one last little sort of light-hearted trick to share, actually, but before I forget. But any questions then before I share my one final Thanksgiving component?
Just some questions on, first of all, people asking about your brain. Yeah, definitely interested in a copy. And wallpaper, some really great wallpapers. Hats off to you for the beautiful background and the VW band. So if you can get into a little bit of,
sure.
How you've customized these brains and also how you manage multiple brains too, with the brain pins as well. So a little bit on that would be fabulous.
Okay, great. Well, that was my last component. I was going to change my wallpaper for the season officially. I've had this wallpaper all summer long. And the reason why I have this wallpaper for this brain is I am fixing up an old VW bus. It's a lot of fun, a lot of work. But I keep track of that here in my brain. Project Management 101, I'm keeping track of what parts I'm buying, when they're installed, how long they should last, videos of how to install them, etc. And the wallpaper just gives me that fun kind of background to get me in the mood. Well, the VW is parked for the winter. Now we're into fall, focusing on Thanksgiving. So I am going to go ahead and change the background. And I like to do that. There's a couple of different ways you can change your wallpaper. If you copy an image off the web, come into the brain, right-click on the background. Now, I recently copied an outline, so the brain thinks I want to paste an outline. Depends on what you have on your clipboard. If you have an image, it'll ask you if you want to paste that as your wallpaper. But I like to go in this way. I'll just go up to Options and down to, it's quite easy, Select Wallpaper. And I think I downloaded an item recently, so I'll say this PC. There's my downloads. There it is. I started typing in Thanksgiving, just typed in TH, and we'll open that up. And that's really just a sort of a fun autumn, mysterious wallpaper. I really like it. Let's say I'm really not liking the links, the yellow and the orange. It's a little bit too much. Maybe I want some darker colored links, or I want to change the color of Thanksgiving. I can't see that red text, so I'll change the Thanksgiving to, let's just change it to something much lighter. There we go. And let's change the links. So to do that, Options and into Preferences. If you're on a Mac, you would click on the Brain, then Preferences. And here on the Brain Tool tab is where you can change all of your different attributes. For the colors of the gates that links connect to, the colors of links, or the highlight around the active thought. In this case, maybe just a quick change of the links. So normal links, instead of being that yellow, let's make them a little darker. And that'll change in the background. That might be too dark. And you can really customize and play around with this. Maybe we want just a nice light white color to make them stand out. I think that works. And so we'll say OK. And so you can really quickly change the look and feel of the brain to best reflect the subject matter. In my business brain, I have something very clear background, solid background, easy to read, straight to business, so I can get to all my thoughts and all my individual attachments, etc. In my recreational brains, I usually have something a little more fun, lighthearted, such as this type of wallpaper. But keep in mind, you can save your backgrounds as well. So Options, you can save your theme. So I'll save this. I really like this. So I'll just
fabulous, fabulous. 'Tis the season. Looking good, Matt. Very nice.
Jump in and out of different brains. The question came up. You may have noticed I use these different tool tabs, or the different brain buttons up above, rather. So I can jump into, again, my travel brain with the nice sort of, that's right where I want to be, is on the beach, and then go into my eSolutions brain, a business-related brain. Very simple, basic background, so the focus itself is right on the individual thoughts. I can see where I'm going, what I'm clicking on, and navigate through this brain very, very quickly and easily straight to business. So sort of some different moods that you can set up in the different brains that you create.
All right, great. And we have another question from Dennis. Can I create multiple thoughts from a list, such as a list of all 50 states, to create an individual state thoughts for travel information, instead of trying to create separate thoughts manually? And my reply, and I'm interested in you can actually create multiple thoughts with the semicolons. I thought, even though that's not Dennis's question, we should cover that. But then also, if you want to import from Word or Excel, that's another way. Or if you have any ideas or best practices for Dennis who wants to create a thought for each state.
Absolutely. So let's say under Thanksgiving recipes, I just wanted a little jump thought over here to different snacks. And then notice I actually have a thought called snacks, S-A-N-X, but we'll just write it the correct way. Snacks. And let's say I know what all of my snacks are off the top of my head. As Shelley mentioned, we've got the semicolon. And you can take an existing list of thoughts, or excuse me, thought names, and incorporate them into a semicolon delineated list. So if you've got a whole long list of clients or friends or hobbies, interests, whatever the case may be, you can copy that onto your clipboard, or in this case, just type it from scratch. So let's say we've got cheese and chips, dip, and meatballs. So just some different snacks to have around on Thanksgiving Day. I separated those with a semicolon, click on the check, and those create 4 individual thoughts for me at one time. Now, if you want to take that one step further. Let's say you have an outline. Maybe it's a book outline that you're writing, or something, a syllabus of what you're studying in school, or the way a meeting is going to be conducted with some big clients, and you've got that outline, tab delineated outline. You can copy and paste that into the brain as well, or even import. So I can select File and go down to import a Word outline. You can also grab an Excel spreadsheet outline, and I have some samples of that. Didn't think we would get into anything this technical today, but let me just really quickly go into a sample folder here of some different import maps. And let's say I've got, in this case, it's just an outline on Edgar Allan Poe. Now I can quickly and easily delete all this content. I'm doing this in my real brain. I'm going to copy this content, and I'll come back and show you how I'm going to delete this in a moment. So let's say we had a link maybe from Thanksgiving down to poetry. We're going to talk about poetry around the table. I'm going to right-click. And remember what I said earlier, how whatever you copy onto your clipboard, if the brain can communicate with that type of content, an image, it'll give you a background. In this case, it's an outline. So I paste that thought outline and link poetry to Thanksgiving. The thought name poetry already exists. Okay. So there it is. So I've really quickly pasted in that poetry, which falls under selected works in that outline list of Edgar Allan Poe and his life and career, his publishing career. Everything that was in that actual document has now been pasted here into my brain. So I've got access to all of that content. And you can see how really quickly that I copied and pasted in about 30 or 40 thoughts into the brain. So again, if you have that outline, you can get a lot of content into your brain really quickly. Now to get rid of this content, because I don't want this poetry content under Thanksgiving in my brain. This is my real brain. This I might post into my literary brain that I actually do have. So there's a couple of different ways I can do this. I can control click. And here we're getting into a more advanced feature of the application. But by control clicking on a thought, and on a Mac you would actually command click, you've added those thoughts into the selection box. And this is where we can mass influence thoughts within your brain. I can assign all of their thought tags or all of their thought types in mass at one time. Or in this case, I can forget 3 thoughts at one time and to remove them from the brain. So I can also, and this is what I'll be doing after the call, I'll be going into my reports. So I don't want this to scare you away. If you're just getting started with the brain, these are some more advanced features, but it's really some good insight into all the different capabilities of the application. This is an alphabetical listing of all the thoughts in this brain. So I've got a little over 3,000 thoughts in this brain. Now I'm going to filter my report and show me all created thoughts within the last, we'll just say within the last, what is today, the 22nd? So we'll say from the 19th to today, the 22nd. Oh, I went October. I want to go November. There we go. So within just the last 2 days, there's been these 33 thoughts. And let's say these are all the thoughts that I want to delete. They're not. A couple of these are actual real thoughts, like my turkey trot thought, etc. But regardless, I can take all of these results and I'll go up to edit and select, or to thought rather, thought, and I'm going to add these to my selection box. So add report results to selection. And now in mass, I can delete all of these thoughts from my brain. So this is not something I want to delete all of. My Lakefront Marathon I just recently added. So now I'm control clicking to move thoughts out of the brain that I don't need. And my turkey trot, I just recently added that just yesterday. So there's all of the content. That looks good. I can right click and select to forget that content. And there I am. So I've removed that test content that I just added in on snacks and Edgar Allan Poe, and I'm right back to where I started.
All right, great. And I think that is most of the questions. We've covered a lot of ground, and we're on the hour. But one thing I did want to let you know, we have the Brain 101 class. So if we moved too quickly, zoomed around a bit in all these different travel examples, and you just want to go ground up more systematically, how do I create that new brain? Do join us on this Friday for the Brain 101. They're every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And also, we have to let you know, today is the first day of our Cyber Monday pre-sale. If you aren't following us on Twitter or aren't signed up for our newsletter, you may or may not be aware of that. 10% off all new licenses, as well as service plan offerings, which include upgrades. So if you buy today, you'll get 10% off, and it does qualify you for that highly anticipated Brain 9 release as well. So if you're on the fence, and the sale does end on Cyber Monday at midnight, so you have till Monday. It's pretty much our only exclusive sale of the year. I can't commit to that. I don't know what we're going to do in the future, but last year this was it as well. So just a little nudge to those of you, the new users on the call, because you might as well save the money and take advantage of that. And Matt, I think that's it. I don't know if you have any other questions or any questions that I think we've covered them all in the Q&A, or any comments for those of any attendees that are doing some last-minute event or travel planning here.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to share again with everyone, we will send an email out with more information about some of the brains that we covered today. Links that you can follow to actually download that travel brain, and another video about using my brain. I actually use part of my brain for a video that's all about the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll send that out for you as well. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday, if it applies.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Yes, we wish you well and in all your travel and event endeavors, and hope to see you again on future Brain Technology event. You can sign up for our next big event is coming up in December 14th, I believe, and that's going from brainstorming to results, getting things done. So those of you that are really into time management and project planning, do go ahead and sign up for that as well. All right, and with that, we're going to close today's session. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing you again on another event. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.